I would say he was a bit jealous of that.
He seized with jealousy, maybe? Or is that too strong?
No, I think that's about right.
Hello, I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Here is how it goes. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. So, you are new to a city, you know absolutely no one. The job that you moved for has since been rescinded, and you've basically got to start from scratch. Where do you go to meet people, and how do you make new friends? How about Facebook? You thought I was going to say your local gay bar, didn't you? No, not quite yet, but we will get there. For this week's guest, Maurice Smith from the Category Is podcast, it was Facebook where he first made connections after he moved to Philadelphia in the late noughties. But, you know, talking online can only take you so far, and eventually you're going to want to meet, right? And that is where the local gay bar Bump comes in. We chat all about renaming the Gaybourhood and come up with some really lackluster alternatives, overcoming shyness, and Maurice teaches me a new word, meetcute. Have you heard of that one before? Well, if you haven't, you are about to find out. Let's get into the episode.
So we call it the Gaybourhood here in Philadelphia, and they tried to rebrand it to something like more, you know,
Inclusive.
yeah, but they call it Midtown Village now, which is not, it doesn't give you the same kind of vibe. But the gays, we still call it the Gaybourhood.
Not letting go.
Yeah, we hold on to it, for the nostalgia.
But it is an interesting conversation, right? Like there's Boys Town, there's
Hmm.
like the gay village. There are
Hmm.
all these places that are centered on gay male experiences
Hmm.
that aren't inclusive. But how do you get a whole population of people to change the way they talk about a place?
Right.
I don't, I'm
Yeah.
just proposing a question there. I don't, but also like, how do you come up with something that's as like snappy and rolls off the tongue as
Yeah.
gay village? What's yours? Gay town, Gaybourhood.
Gayborhood, yeah,
Gaybourhood,
the
that
Gayborhood.
works.
It works
Yeah,
because it's a neighborhood, but it's for the gays. It's the Gayborhood.
but it shouldn't only be for the gays. This is the whole
Right, and that's
conversation.
that's why the rebranding kind of took place, but then it's just so bland and generic now that it's like, eh, nobody really likes it.
And like, so you couldn't really call it the LGBT no, that nothing works there.
Yeah.
And then so many people would be offended if you call it like Queer Alley or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
So you couldn't do that. Non-heterosexual hill? No. I don't know what you could do.
Nothing works.
Nothing
I
works.
guess they need a marketing team. They need a
We
marketing.
need, yeah, I think we need to do some focus groups, bring people together. Yeah. LGBTQ Avenue? Hmm? Hmm? LGBTQ Avenue? That's
That's a
no?
mouthful.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, so you're telling me, so everyone recommended that you go to Bump when you moved to Philadelphia.
Right.
Do you remember the first time you went there?
Yes, I do. I wanna say it was Thursday, and it was one of the people that I just, had met on the Facebook, and we were, kind of just chatting, and he was like, "Hey, well, let's meet at Bump." And I was like, "Well, what is Bump?" Because I didn't know, I was still new. And I had never been. So he was like, "Oh, it's, at this intersection." because also when I was new to the city, I didn't venture out much. Like I went to work and I came home, and like that was the extent
Mhm.
of my exploring the city. And so, going to Bump for the first time was like, ooh, like where kind of like where am I?
So had you not been like, "Oh, I'm new to this city. I need to figure out where all the gay places are."
No, I didn't. Because I'm also like very risk averse. And so because everything was so new and like I was never out at night in the beginning. Like I was just kind of
Oh,
scared
okay. So
because
you don't mean out, you mean out.
yeah, I was just never out. Like I never went clubbing or like in the
Oh,
beginning
wow.
because I was really, I wouldn't say scared, but there was probably a little fear there because it was a new place. And, coming from the South, we have this perception that cities are dangerous and you don't go out after dark. You're going to get mugged. And my mom is actually a police officer. So, she kind of ingrained in us that you're in
But
danger.
so, okay. So do I have this right? You moved
Hmm.
to Philadelphia because you'd outgrown your town in South Carolina and you wanted something a bit more exciting,
Hmm.
but then you got there and you stayed at
Yes.
home.
Makes no sense, right? But I wasn't really settled. I wasn't really like, okay, now I'm ready to go. I just wasn't ready, I think. It took me, I would say, until like that fall to really kind of start going out. Like I missed, you know,
What? What?
everything.
So you
Yeah.
moved in the winter and it
Mhm.
took like 9 months?
Yeah, because I think the first time I
Wow.
went to Bump, it was like October. So that was what, like 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't often think about how taxing it is to move to a brand new city,
Hmm.
right? Like it's a lot of mental capacity and
Right.
emotional turmoil.
Mhm. And then also just being, I was broke as well
Well, there's that.
because like I said, my job had gotten canceled, so I like had to figure everything out, and I was just, let me get my priorities straight, and then I can worry about going out. And
So in this period, did you make any friends at all?
not really. So one of my friends from college, he moved to Philadelphia like a month or two after I did.
Mhm.
So we actually became roommates. He was kind of like my, I guess, friend. I wanted to make new friends, but at the end of the day, like if I didn't, he was still there, and we were still kind of a safety net. I would say.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so sorry, I cut you off.
No.
It was your first time at Bump. This
Hmm.
guy from Facebook had recommended it to you,
Hmm.
and you went there to meet him?
Yes. Which was an experience because I walk in, and so it had these like double doors that kind of opened in, and you can just go in, and the music is like blaring, and then it had these huge windows on one wall, but it was still kind of dark for some reason. So it's just like, almost disorienting because you have the loud music, it's dark, I don't know anyone, and it's like, well, like, where's the guy who I was supposed to meet? So I felt like I looked very awkward, trying to like,
Oh,
and then, being new to the city, I felt everyone was looking at me, which made me that much more nervous and shy because I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh God, everyone's staring at me. And I felt like I couldn't go anywhere. I felt like trapped. So yeah, it was just a lot all at once, I would say.
And so did you have photos of this guy that you were meeting with?
Yeah, from Facebook. So I kinda knew what he looked like, but then he was late getting there. So we were
Ah.
supposed to meet at, like, say 5:15 or whatever, I can't remember the exact time, but, I didn't see his message that he was running late until after I had gotten there. So I'm like, "Okay, like, what do I do now?" Because I don't know anyone. I'll just go to the
Oh,
bar
that's
and wait.
awkward,
And
yeah.
so it was like, I go to the bar, then I finally order a drink, and I'm just like, "Okay, let me start drinking so I can get my, liquid courage up." So he finally came, and then we, like, chit-chatted and kinda just started to get to know each other, and I still felt it was awkward because it was just a new experience for me, but I think I enjoyed it.
What are the kind of things that you share about yourself when you meet a new person?
It's always about, like, you kinda have that general chit chat, like, "Oh, where are you from?" Everyone in Philly is like, "What do you do?" I think that's, like, the next question. "Where are you from? What do you do?"
Ah, I have a real hatred of the question, "What do you do?"
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it really matters a lot, you know?
Yeah, I think it does matter, but it also doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the most important thing
Right.
about you that I wanna know,
Mhm.
right? Like, if I like you, I don't really care what you do. I mean, I don't want you to work for, like, Shell or something, but if I like you, like, it's cool whatever you do. I'm not,
Mhm.
like, more impressed or less impressed by your
Right.
job. But
Mhm.
that whole culture of, "So what do you do?" "Oh," or, "Oh," like, I just
Right.
find that really gross.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't really volunteer information
Oh.
a lot. I'm not, the one who's, like, super talkative who well, I think I'm getting
Mm.
better at that now, but I wasn't the one who would, like, just volunteer and give you, like, a 5-minute monologue or biography of, like, my life. I kinda like to let the questions kind of be more conversational and not, like, a list of, like,
And
checking
not feel
questions
like
off.
you're yeah, yeah, you're just, like, going through the script that you go
Mhm.
through for everyone that you talk to. Do
Yeah.
you think your reluctance to talk about yourself is related to your shyness, or do you think it's something else?
That is a good question. I think I have always been, like, inherently shy, but then also private at the same time, not necessarily
Mhm.
secretive, but I don't like to give give a lot of information away because, like, a lot of times
Mm.
it's like, "Well, what are you gonna use this information for?" And that's really one so I had an experience in my life where I was outed, and so I think that's where a lot of it also comes from,
Oh, no.
where it's like, "What are you gonna do with this information?" So that's what I'm
Well, and so was it a situation where you confided in someone and then they used that against you?
well, it was more like I was involved with this guy, like, towards the end of college and,
Oh,
like, after college, and, it was just, like, one of those things, like, it wasn't a relationship, but it wasn't
but there was nudity involved.
of course, yes. So, we were involved, like, towards the end of my college. He was, like I can't remember if he was a year younger than me or, like, 2 years younger than me or whatever, but we would still see each other when was I would go back to, like, for football games and things like that. And then, we would see each other and hang out
Mhm.
and do stuff. And then the city I moved to after college was his hometown. So, like, when he would come home from college to visit his family and stuff, we would, like, see each other, hang out, hook up, that kind of stuff. And so anyway, long story short is that when I like started dating someone after, because like I said, it wasn't like a relationship, so I didn't feel like any obligation or responsibility. So
I love that you're justifying this all to me, like you're laying out this
yeah.
groundwork. I get it. Okay.
So I started dating someone, and then that guy
Uh-huh.
found out. And then since he was still like in college, I think he was like a senior that year. Anyway, he told everybody like in our friend group. We went to a large school, but the black population at that school was very small. So like all the minorities, the black people, we all kind of knew each other. And so
Mhm.
once he told certain people, then like everyone knew. Like I literally went to bed one night and woke up the next morning and like he had told the entire like everyone knew like my inboxes were full.
Oh,
My text messages were full. Like this is back when AOL Instant Messenger when that was going on. Like I had so many like IMs about it. But yeah, it was like
shit.
yeah.
And what were the repercussions of that?
I lost a lot of people who, I thought were friends or people who were
Yeah.
in my life. And it was just one of those situations where it was very eye-opening because at the end of the day, it kind of let me know who was for me and who was not.
Mhm.
So it
Mm-mm.
was one of those life lessons.
Yeah, kind of one of those things that with perspective, you can see how
Mhm.
that might have been useful for you, but it was still a very shitty way for it to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
So do we wanna publicly shame the person that did this? We want to call him out.
No, no, I let that go a long time ago.
Good, because I'm not sure what I would have done if you said
Right.
yes.
Yeah, no, looking back on it, I'm kinda glad that it happened because
Yeah,
just really, like I said, moved me forward in, like, a lot of ways and helped me grow in a lot of ways, and, we do still have, mutual friends, and they'll mention his name sometimes, and it's just like,
yeah.
oh.
What
So
happens to you when his name gets mentioned?
so I used to be filled with rage and, like, anger and, like,
Uh-huh.
kinda all that stuff would come back, but now it's just like, "Eh, I hope he's doing well," you know?
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. He's got no power over you.
None.
Fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you hold on to it, that's when they have the power, but when you release it, it's
Mm-mm.
much more powerful for me.
Yeah, that's delicious. But having gone through that experience, you
Mhm.
think that that has impacted your willingness to be open about yourself?
Definitely.
Ah.
Even though that was in the past and that happened in the past, that's one of the things that it's just someone taking personal stuff and kinda using it, against you, so
Mm-mm.
at the time, it kinda reinforced, "Okay, yeah, this is why you don't share as much with people because look what they can do with it." But yes, it's
It's a really interesting thing, right? Because your situation, I'm gonna sound really wanky when I say this, so sorry. But like your situation is someone used something against you and now you're punishing the rest of the world by not sharing yourself.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it that way.
The only reason I feel comfortable to say that to you is that
Mhm,
I am also a person who's not very good at sharing,
mhm.
and I am getting better. And I only share when it's not invited, actually.
Oh, really?
So, like on this podcast, when people are wanting to tell me their story, then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to start talking about myself now. Um, but if I'm in those situations where someone's like, tell me about your school life or tell
Mhm,
me about what this was like, I just shrug it off or like, oh yeah, whatevs. Yeah. And I'm not very forthright with
mhm,
things about myself. I'm not very, like, particularly open.
mhm.
And unlike you, I would say that I am kind of secretive.
Mm,
I've been trying to unpick it and trying to
right.
work out why it is
Mhm,
and whether it's linked to my sexuality at all in terms of, learning to minimize myself
mhm,
when I was younger, learning to be unnoticeable because if no one notices me, that means they won't pick up on the fact that I'm gay and then penalize me for it.
mhm,
Or whether it's something else, whether it's I don't know, the friction within friendships
mhm.
and me being oversensitive when something like your situation happened, like if I bitched about Samantha and then Polly went and told Samantha, I don't know
Mhm.
anyone called Polly or Samantha, these are just examples. And whether I like took that way too seriously and then internalized it and then from that day forward never told
Never,
anyone
yeah.
anything, even though it wasn't
Mhm,
really that traumatic. But
mhm,
it is really interesting in that, like, there's no way of talking about this without sounding really like a help book or something. But keep my light from other people.
mhm. I could understand that. I think we do what we feel is best in order to, either
Survive.
protect ourselves or survive. Yeah. And I think it's all about setting boundaries as well. Cause like I'll share things, but up to a point. Or I'll
Mhm.
give you a general understanding of the story, but I won't go like super in depth, and so a lot of
Mm.
the super personal things, I'll keep that to myself, or I'll keep that to my good girlfriend who, I trust with, everything, or we talk about like really deep things. And so it's like with people who you either don't know their motives or you don't know them
Mm.
when I'm first getting to know someone, then I'll be, I think, that much more closed off to them than obviously
Mm.
someone I've known for a really long time. But
But it is kind of counterproductive, right?
uh, potentially.
And the reason I say that is that, like, you're not letting them see who you are until they know you. But at the point that they think they know you, they then realize that they don't know you because you're then like, oh, and here's all
Oh,
these
and then
other things that I
yeah,
haven't shown you.
yeah. Yeah, I can see it that way as well. But I just like to think that for me is the best. You know.
Mm-mm. Oh, yeah, sorry. And I'm not trying to like be like, you need to rethink everything about yourself and change your ways. I find it, I overuse that word, but I find it really interesting.
hmm
So, anyway, so you had some martinis, you
hmm
were at Bump. This guy from Facebook was running late. Please tell me he showed up.
Oh yeah, he finally did show up. So it was by that time I was probably 3 or 4 martinis in because I was just so nervous that I was just like throwing him back. So by the time they kicked in, he had gotten there. So I was probably a bit more free with info at that point because we had, pretty good conversation and got to know each other. And he was, kind of telling me like different things about the city and, Philadelphia in general and just like gay life in Philly. And yeah, I think we became like really good friends at that point.
At that point, does that mean he's no
Yeah.
longer in your life?
Yeah, no, he's no longer around.
I get the sense you don't want me to ask any follow up questions, and I will
Yeah.
respect that sense.
So Bump was actually where I met my first boyfriend in Philadelphia. And it was like
Ooh.
a proper, what do they call it in the movies? A meet cute, where you have like this random story where you kind of, just meet someone like in real life, not like on
Oh,
dating
is
apps.
me cute a thing? Should I know that?
Yeah, it's very like rom-com term. It's like Sarah meets cute guy on the elevator. And, it's like just or at the grocery store, it's like some random encounter
Ah,
that kind of starts the romance. It sets up the story for the
so I
rom-com.
shouldn't spell it MEAT.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, sorry.
So,
So tell me the story.
so my friend from college who moved to Philadelphia, like a month or two after I did, so we were roommates, and he was a bit more um, eager to meet a guy in Philadelphia. So he was
Mhm.
always like going on a first date. He was on all the app. Can't remember were apps a thing at that point, or how did you meet guys back
Oh,
then?
yeah.
I know he used Adam for Adam a lot, which was a thing. Um, and so he had a date that he was meeting there like for dinner. And I was like, ooh, okay. But it was a blind date, so he didn't want to like just go randomly. And so he said, would you come with me while he waited for his date to show up? I was like, yeah, sure. And so we're standing around. There's like this huge column, like in the middle of Bump. I guess it's structural. I'm not sure. And so we're like kind of standing around right beside this column. It was crowded, and I'm very tall, so people notice me very easily. And so I remember I was facing the door, and I saw this group of probably 4 guys walk in, and
Mhm.
one guy, his eyes just lit up and like when we made eye contact. And I didn't think anything of it. So I'm just like, okay, So I'm like talking to to my friend. And then I happened to turn to my left and the guy was standing like right here. And yeah,
Wow.
and then he like introduced himself. He's telling me his name and blah blah blah. And he goes, oh, you must be new to the city. And this was probably like November. No, this was like December. And I was like, yeah, I'm new. And then we kind of just struck up a conversation. We exchanged numbers and then started talking like on the phone, like after like getting home from Bump that night. And then we went on our first date like the next day.
Aww.
Yeah. And then we were in a relationship for like
But
3
okay,
years.
so he had some nerve to come up to you and
Right.
just be like, bam, I'm going to talk to you.
hmm
What was your response?
I was a bit caught off guard, mainly because he like just appeared like literally like
Yeah, yeah.
right beside me, and I was like,
And it's
"Oh."
kinda creepy to be like, "You must be new in town."
Yeah, and that was his opening line. I was just like, yeah, how do you know?" I wouldn't say we hit it off because I was kinda skeptical at first because, like, I just hadn't really
Mm.
met anyone in the city or met anyone, like, out like that, and he was pretty aggressive as well. It was like, "You're new to the city," like, before he even, like, like, introduced himself, and then it was just like by the end of the conversation, it was, "Here's my number," and then by the time I got home, he had already, like, messaged me, and then
Oh,
but part
wow.
of me was, like, flattered at the same time because
Yeah, yeah.
because, it's just like, wow, some random person thought I was hot or was, like, really into me, so
That's the funny thing, isn't it? When
yeah.
someone has that kind of confidence,
Mhm.
it's easy to just be like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll go along with this." And then, like, you're just on a date with them before you've had time to really think about
To really
it.
process it,
'Cause they've
yeah.
just been so like, "Yep, so we're gonna meet here, and we're gonna do this, and this is what's
Mhm.
gonna happen." And then you're like, yeah," and you
Yeah,
don't
sure.
even recognize that there's an option to opt out. Yeah, you just go along with it.
Yeah,
It's so fascinating.
yeah.
I wish I had that confidence sometimes, but then also, like, it's a bit obnoxious, isn't it? Not
Yeah.
that I'm saying he was obnoxious. Sorry, I'm so judgmental of this person I've never met.
But no, it was definitely like, looking back on it, I think I would probably have been a bit more like, "Wait, hold on, pause, let's slow slow it down." But it was just such a new experience that, yeah, I kinda just went along with it because I was very it was just very new, for me at that moment,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, and it's so flattering, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
I totally get that cynicism of like when someone's hitting on you,
Mhm.
the thought in your mind is like, there must be cameras filming this, right? This must be a joke
This is
somehow.
yeah, like,
Like,
what's going on?
and so just to jump back quickly,
Sure.
so you went to support your friend when he was going on a blind date and he was
Yes.
very much in the dating mode and he really
Mhm,
wanted to meet new people
mhm.
and you ended up snagging a boyfriend.
I did.
Was he pissed off at you?
Oh, for sure, because the guy that he was actually meeting it ended up not working for them. I think they didn't even go on a second date, after that, and then he saw me going on these dates and then entering in this relationship with someone I met, in the same place at the same time, basically,
Mm-mm.
and I would say he was a bit jealous of that.
He seized with jealousy, maybe? Or is that too strong?
No, I think that's about right.
Oh, that's shit though. It's shit when you're in that mindset of like, I need to fall in love. I need to meet
Mhm.
someone. And then other people are doing it around you.
Yeah, but I think that's why because totally wasn't in that mindset, and I think that's why it happened a bit easier for me because he was so focused, like, "I gotta go on a date, I gotta get a boyfriend, I gotta," and I was just like, yeah, well, I'm just coming along." and then end up meeting
But
someone, but
see, I don't buy into this advice that people give is like, oh, you'll meet someone when you stop
when you're not
looking. Or
looking
like, and I think
exactly.
that's like,
Yeah.
well, if I'm not looking, I'm not interested. Like,
Well, I think it's more
what's
of
wrong with looking?
you're open to it, but if you're not necessarily focused on it, then it can happen for you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm open to meeting someone, but like if I'm like hardcore, I have to meet them today, then it might not happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get there's a balance, right? Like, you
Mhm.
don't want to be so single minded about it that you drain all of the fun out of it and that
Right.
you're just become a robot. But
Mhm.
it's like, I wouldn't find a job if I didn't submit job applications. So why
That's
would I
valid.
apply a completely different logic to something else? Don't put any effort in and suddenly you'll get what you want. Like, I feel like that's really counterproductive.
Well, when you put it like
So
that.
if anyone's out there on dating apps and they're feeling frustrated, don't give up, but get other interests maybe. Like
Yeah.
take up knitting or something. Sound advice from me. Right. But so is that why Bump was a special place for you? Because it represents that time in your life when you first moved to Philly and you were terrified, but also embracing this brand new world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it wraps up the beginning of kind of this new era in my life where it's all about like this new independence, this new, kind of life I was
Mm,
creating for myself here in Philadelphia. And it kind of just for the nostalgia of like the time and like the everything I was going through. It was just like that place where you can always go to, meet up with people who were important, in your life, meet new people as
mm,
well. And then, just it's all about having a good time. So I think, it's all those memories kind of wrapped up in like one
mm.
special place.
And so when did Bump close?
Oh, good question. So it started to kind of decline because the martinis were $4.
And they went up to 5.
Yeah. Which, you could still get like 4 martinis for like 20 bucks. But then they raised them to $6. And everybody was like, "No
And it was
way."
game over.
Yeah. And so like less and less people started going. And I think a couple like other places started to open up in the city. And then it kind of just like lost that kind of magic
Mm,
as well. So then people kind
mhm.
of just
And do you remember hearing about it closing?
no, I think it was one of those things where it just like closed and was boarded up like the
Mm,
next time I saw it. And it was just like, whoa, like what happened to Bump? And then, you kind of think about, oh yeah, well they did raise the prices. Well, yeah, I hadn't even been in this amount of time. And it was just like, oh well, now what are now what are we gonna do?
mhm. And so, like, did you respond emotionally at the time, or was it more of a like, "Oh, I guess it doesn't exist anymore?"
Yeah, it was definitely like a womp womp. Because even though people had stopped going, it was still like, that place that, was special. And so
Mm,
like seeing it close down is just like, like, oh no. Because it did kind of have like those special memories, I think, for like a lot of people.
yeah. And so what would you say that having access to Bump taught you about yourself?
Hmm. It taught me that I could make it and I could thrive in like a new situation. I think because, it helped me kind of become more social in like an environment that I would never, had really kind of done before. And it helped me kind of, grow and mature like in some ways as well.
Do you have any memories of Bump or clubbing from your own queer scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, please get in touch. I want to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer clubbing, and I know you can help. Go to lostspacespodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space and tell me all about what it is you got up to. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as Lost Spaces Pod. And whilst you're at it, give Category Is a little follow on Twitter. The profile is at Category Is Pod, or, just give the show a little listen wherever you stream podcasts, which might be this very app that you are using right now. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform, or just told people who you think might be interested in giving it a wee listen too. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.